A new Coach fragrance, and it's not a Coach for Men flanker. We've got a brand new line that seems to be starting here, and I would imagine there's going to be some flankers coming out of this in the future. We have Coach Open Road. This is going to be an eau de toilette concentration. So, pretty exciting, something new, something different here we're going to kind of dive into. And we'll see what this is all about. I would imagine it's going to be a very wearable, very light, easygoing scent. Typically, that's what Coach goes after. You know, they're not a brand that's going to step out and do anything too crazy. But eventually, when this one hits discounters, and if it's pretty pleasant smelling and you can get it for a typical Coach fragrance price, maybe it'll be worth looking into. So I will link this one down below. It will be at a retail price, of course. I did pick this one up at full retail. And so if you do have any sort of interest, you can go and get it down below. It's also been a while since I've done a first impressions on a new release. Really slowed down there kind of towards the end of last quarter. But now that we're going to be heading into fourth quarter, I would imagine that things are probably going to ramp back up again pretty quickly as these companies have, you know, a lot of money to blow at the end of the year and to do some marketing and push some new stuff out. So hopefully we'll kind of really start ramping back up into some first impression stuff here moving in towards, you know, October through December, something like that. So the bottle looks really sharp. I like it a lot. You've got that kind of straw down the center, which kind of reminds me of what Dior Homme kind of goes after there with, you know, some of their newer ones like Dior Homme 2020 and that sort of thing, and the Dior Homme Sports. And it kind of looks similar to the Dior Homme Sport bottles. It's just, you know, a little bit rounded off rather than being square, and obviously no cap. Doesn't look like the atomizer locks on this one like the others, but I really think this looks sharp. I'm not one to get too excited about presentations. You know, it just usually it is what it is, but I like something that's minimalistic and classy. I don't need a bunch of bells and whistles. I don't need anything that looks super loud and super fancy. And so something that just looks classy sitting on your shelf like this, I think is pretty cool. And smelling this one, it is what I was expecting, being just a very light and fresh, easygoing, citrusy, woody scent is kind of how this one is presenting itself right off, you know, the first initial spray. It's got a little bit of a spicy pepper. It's a Sichuan pepper in here. You get a good dose of bergamot up top, kind of giving it that brightness. It's a little bit sour, a little bit tart. There's red apple listed in the notes, and you get a little bit of kind of a sweet apple liqueur, but it's kind of underneath the lemon and the bergamot that I'm picking up on here. So it's more so citrus rather than fruity. And we'll take a look at the notes. We have lemon and red apple up top, Sichuan pepper, clary sage, and lavender in the mid, vetiver, cedar, and patchouli in the base. So the lavender clary sage combination is very popular in men's fragrances. You see that used all the time, and it creates a very just aromatic, clean, and very masculine core. A lot of newer fragrances are really being based around that composition there. It's nothing new, of course, using those notes in men's perfumery, but here lately they've been focusing heavily on it. And so when you get that here, it kind of gives off just a similar smell due to that accord being used heavily in a lot of other men's fragrances. That being said, I do like how it smells. You know, it's very clean, very aromatic. It's something where it's fresh and not really too polarizing. You know, if you take another note combination like, you know, a tobacco and vanilla combination or something like that, that's going to be sweeter. It's going to be a little bit more rich and resinous and might be a little bit more controversial or polarizing. But when you're able to take a couple notes like this and fuse them together and use it universally to create something that's very mass pleasing, it kind of works. I definitely get a good dose of the vetiver here. Now, vetiver can be used in all sorts of different forms. In this situation here, it's a very soapy, clean, and fresh vetiver. Pretty light, not anywhere into a category where it's super earthy or anything like that, smoky or something, you know, like an Ancre Noir or something like that. Very clean and fresh here in this one, which is usually how I like my vetivers. I don't like anything that's too heavy. The cedar wood also comes into play, kind of giving it a little bit of a dry, woody smell, as you would normally expect from a cedar wood variety. But what it also does, along with the vetiver, is it gives it a very masculine base. The woods in here really help to balance this one out and push it in that direction. Now, in terms of what this reminds me of, It almost reminds me of something that I don't know. The vetiver is coming through so strong here. And so I know it has to remind me of a fragrance that's, of course, very vetiver centric. And so one thing that I'm thinking of a little bit is like a Roja Parfums Elysium type of thing. I mean, think about it. If you got a lot of bases covered here, the lemon mixing with some of the pepper, some of the fruits, but then, of course, also the aromatic mid, and then into the dry down, the vetiver, the woods. Elysium is very vetiver heavy. It's also citrusy. It's aromatic, right? So maybe a little bit Elysium inspired. When you look on Fragrantica, one of the main things that this is getting compared to currently is Creta Ventus, and I don't really get so much of that comparison there. Is woods heavy, and Aventus is, of course, also woods heavy, but it doesn't really kind of hold up quite as much as I would maybe expect to see with that comparison. Just the opening is different than Elysium and Aventus, but the dry down with that vetiver kind of remind me something in that similar ballpark there, maybe a little bit. You know what, also maybe a little bit of a Roja Parfums vetiver as well, just obviously the vetiver centric here is definitely taking over. So I don't know, maybe it'll kind of remind you of some other popular vetiver fragrances, again, where they're focusing heavily on it, because as this one is settling down, and it hasn't even been that long, it's just going very much in the woods and vetiver direction. So you got to like vetiver to get down with this one. I think it's a very versatile note. I like it in fragrances. It's something where, for the most part, a lot of guys are going to really be able to get along with it in terms of a wearability standpoint. Now, whether or not vetiver fragrances or something like this is going to completely blow you away, that's a different story. I don't think this is going to be providing that wow factor for most of you guys, including myself. However, it's very pleasant, and I do find myself enjoying it. I'm sitting here smelling this, and I'm excited to see how this progresses further. I can't say that about every new fragrance. There's been a handful this year that I've smelled, and I've been like, okay, yeah, I'm not really looking forward to diving in further. But this one I actually kind of am. Doesn't smell like a blue fragrance. It's not a Sauvage. It's not a Dylan Blue. It's not a YSLY EDP. None of that. So that's good. That's a good sign. But again, it's not going to be super original either. It's going to remind you of something, even if you can't put your hand on it or your nose on it or your finger on it, whatever you want to use there. You're going to have a familiar kind of feeling with this one. Performance is something we're going to have to test. I would imagine it to be an average performer. I don't think it's going to be beast mode. I don't think it's going to be incredibly weak either. If we can get a good 6 hours out of this one, I would be pretty happy with that. Like I mentioned, brand new line. I know they're going to release flankers, so I'm excited to see what they're going to do with an EDP. Are they going to stick with this DNA, beef it up, create an eau de parfum, and just make it stronger, better performing, and a bit richer? Or are they going to go the direction where they make it smell quite a bit different? Who knows? And from there on, maybe a parfum, maybe some sort of summer edition, who really knows? I love kind of predicting flankers because I think that's fun. I know if I was creating a fragrance, I would be excited about coming up with what I could make next. So, we'll have to see what they come up with here. But really, all in all, not a bad starting point. So that's going to do it for me. Coach, Open Road, love the presentation, really enjoying the scent. Nothing new and crazy, but very pleasant. And once this one hits discounters for about half the retail price, it'll actually be, to me, a really nice pickup and an easy wear. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.